Wilson. I'm the local business resource counselor out here. I work for UBU and the SBDC and Eagle Mountain all at once. It's kind of confusing, so I won't explain it to you. But I am the business resource counselor out here. Connie and I, we run the incubator together. We've got a lot of great businesses over there. We're trying to help them out a lot. Actually, we took one today out to Mountain Land to get them funding. It sounds like we got one of our first funding of the year for our incubator this year. But anyways, if you are a small business or you're interested in growing your business, our main focus is to help people increase their revenues, get access to capital, and hire employees if that's what you need to do. So whether you have a business idea that you're looking to kind of scale, or you're in business and you're looking to grow your revenues and maybe you need a little capital to do that, come talk to me. I'm happy to talk to you about it. My office is located right over in the Direct Communications building in Suite C. So you come in the door, just turn to the left and I'm there. I'm there on Mondays and Thursdays, and if you're interested in incubator space, using the conference room, or even just using a hot desk, come talk to me. I'd be happy to talk to you. Anyways, and lastly, we'd like to introduce Mayor Pengra here to come up and introduce himself and share a few words.
Hi guys, how's it going? Good. It's a small group. I like that it's cozy. So, you know, I've been in office for 2 months now, and been working through a lot of things, but one thing that has been brought to my attention through several different methods is, you know, I think that there are improvements that we can make within the city to basically help small businesses with, you know, perhaps codes that are more forgiving for small businesses that kind of allow, you know, maybe it be different signage or, you know, various ideas. The thing is I don't have those ideas because I'm not bumping into those challenges as a business owner. So Rich brought one to my attention, right? So we're aware of one thing that we've got room for improvement with signage for businesses. We can do something with that. There's always going to be a process to go through things like that, which, you know, may include the planning commission or city council. But I do want to be mindful that small business is really where it's at, and increasingly more so. You know, we're not in the place where we can have a Walmart or a Costco. It's just not going to happen right now. Someday it will happen. But the tax revenues that we can get from the economic engine that drives this country, it's really small business. That's where it's at. And we want to be helpful. We want to be a partner in being able to clear the way for some of those things. I'm probably not going to support running junkyards out of your front yard or anything like that. But to the extent that we can take reasonable steps to allow small business owners to excel and be successful, we want to do that. And you have the ideas. And frankly, that's where the ideas should come from, not from the government. So we get that weird groupthink going on, and we start thinking we've got great ideas, and the reality is sometimes they are good ideas, sometimes they're not. But I know that you guys have innovation built into your daily lives, because that's what you have to do as a small business. You have to innovate or get left in the dust, right? So in any case, this is great to see this group, and I'm sorry I haven't participated in the last 2 months. Have definitely consumed all of my time and then some, which is okay. But I look forward to participating when I can and coming to these events and listening to what you guys have to say. And if you ever want to talk, I didn't bring a business card, so you have to look up my phone number on the website, but I'm sure you guys can find that. And if you don't have internet, you can go see Diane and help their small business.
We'll take care of it.
And then you can look me up on the internet. Anyway, what questions do you guys have for me right now? What are some of the things that you do have concerns about? We know, you know, maybe more relaxed signage standards would be one issue that I'm aware of. What else are you guys running into?
For me, capital.
Capital?
That's the only thing that's probably slowing me down.
I got $20, that's all I have. Does that help you out?
Capital and time.
Okay,
So,
fair enough. And so within this group, are you guys sharing good ideas on things you can do to get yourself to a place where you can get access to capital? And well, let me take a step back. My background is in finance, investments, banking. So I've worked in the banking industry, and I know what the big banks will tell you. They say, well, show me 2 years of performance and then we'll talk, right? They want to see that you've put the effort in and you've moved forward. That's going to be pretty much a universal truth. There are other ways that are innovative that you can, crowdsource funding and different things like that that can help you get going if you've got a good idea. And there's ways that you can pitch those. But I'm guessing you guys have probably discussed a lot of those things, or maybe not. Maybe that's a good topic that you guys could get into. But anyway, so capital. What else? Anybody running into anything that's maybe specific to the challenges in dealing with the city? They're mean. No, I don't know. I mean, anyway, I won't put you guys on the spot. If you do come up with things like that, though, any issues that you encounter, we're like any other organization. There's always room to improve. You're either getting better or you're dying, and I prefer to get better, and I think we can. It just takes participation from everybody who has a vested interest, and I think as small business, you guys have more of a vested interest than anybody else. And I look forward to seeing that small business component of our community grow. And then someday we will have a Costco or a McDonald's. But anyway, I appreciate your time. Anybody else have anything you want to lob at me on the spot? You can ask me any question you want. I weigh 173 pounds. Okay.
Who wins in a fight, you or Finn?
What's that?
Who wins in a fight, you or Finn?
She would. She's Irish.
Smart.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks guys for your time, and look forward to getting to know you better.
And then lastly, we'd like to introduce our newcomers. I don't think we've ever seen you guys before. Go ahead and just announce who you are and what you do.
Okay. I'm Brian Bills. I'm representing both of us, Little Dress Up Shop and my own business, B&L Online Promotions. We've been here in Eagle Mountain for 7 years. Started out in our basement and have been now in the incubator program. So.
All right, well, thank you. It's great to know everybody a bit more now that you've introduced yourself and your business. So appreciate all the elected officials who made the time out of their busy schedule as well to come. Tom Westmoreland and Mayor Pankra, thank you for coming out. It's great for the businesses I know to see the support from their elected officials and that they're being heard. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Ryan Kohler, our keynote speaker. I'll just read a bit from his bio. Ryan has an MBA from Southern Utah University and specializes in web-based marketing, which provides him with a unique perspective when it comes to hiring, optimization, and management. His internet expertise helps transform outdated business models by using online tools to maximize efficiency and ROI potential. Blah, 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 blah. One of the great things he did, I mean, just from his basement, right? You started with just you and maybe 5 other in the beginning, and just you, right? It builds a better story. It was just you in the basement, right?
Yeah.
And 1,000 square feet basement.
That would have been awkward.
Yeah, that would have been. So just started you and to about 50 employees right now in 3 years. Okay. So that's just kind of something what he did. Just before we get to him, I'm sure he has more stories. Ryan's the CEO of Job Match LLC, makers of iApplicants and ApplicantPro, easy-to-use hiring software that has simplified and optimized the hiring process for over 2,500 companies and HR professionals. Just a few recognitions and publications. He's the 21st for Utah's fastest growing companies in 2013, Utah's businesses top 40 under 40, 11th overall of Utah 100 fastest growing companies in 2012, and UVEF top 25 under 5. UVF, what is that? Utah Valley
Valley Entrepreneurial Forum.
forum. Okay.
And 1309 on the Inc. 5000 list. this last year.
1309 on the Inc. 5000 list, okay. Which,
What does the under 5 mean? Because you don't look like you're under 5 years old.
5 years, it's 5-year-old companies, so you can't be on the
Oh,
list
under
anymore,
5.
right?
yeah. Well, like I said, we can go on more, but let's just hear from the man himself. Round of applause for Ryan Kohler, everybody.
Grab a water here, I've been a little sick this week, so. Yeah, I wish we could get bigger turnout. I think, long-term, I think we can build this into a bit bigger turnout. We'll try and keep this a little more low-key, I guess, and open. So you said capital. Who else? I guess my question would be, why did you come tonight? Like, what are you hoping to get from this? Anybody want to give me an idea? It could be totally off.
I personally, just the online stuff, I mean, I do, I have, a Facebook page for my business, and I do the Instagram, and I have a blog, well, all that stuff, but, I sell some tutorials online for my blog, so obviously my hands-on work, like, I'm busy enough, I'm not, like, looking to, like, build that, but, the online stuff, if I'm selling more of my tutorials and stuff like that, then that's easy money, so I'd rather, like, how to, because I really don't know what I mean,
Okay,
a
excellent.
lot.
So web-based scaling of your business, right? Capital, what else? Anybody else?
And to learn more too.
Okay,
Like, I've got my website, so anything I learn on that helps
Okay.
out, so.
Frankly, my interest is in creating more community among the businesses that go down. And I believe the number one problem our businesses face is obscurity. Right. So it increases visibility and big networking opportunities.
okay, anybody else?
I just want to make more friends.
Exact opposite of me. I could still be in my basement. I don't care about being obscure. I think we just put a sign up on the front door so some people can find us once in a while. Where the councilman right here, councilman's not your full-time gig, right?
No,
So what do you do when you're not being councilman?
I'm a marketing guy.
Because I'm not an Eagle Mountain voter, so live in Harvest Hills, right?
So as far as marketing, advertising, I've
Okay.
done it all,
Cool.
pretty much, so.
All right, well, can I give you some background on me? So I grew up in Heber, actually Midway, the nicer side of the river up there, right? On a dairy farm. Moved there when I was like 3. Went to high school there, moved down to St. George, went to college in St. George, served a 2-year mission in Brooklyn, New York. Came back down and spent about 9 years in southern Utah. That's where I got my degree, where I went to college, as an accountant. My bachelor's in accounting. I was a corporate accountant for just long enough to get my MBA, and I quit my job. I had a parking lot sweeping company. My in-laws thought I was nuts. I'm pretty sure they questioned the choices that their relative made in marrying me, somebody who gets an MBA and then quits their job and sweeps parking lots at night. And in the past 15 years, I've owned a parking lot sweeping company, a manufacturing company that manufactured 4-wheeler parts. I've done marketing for No Need Juice, for Trouble Teen Homes, for you name it. Pick a business, I've probably done something, built a website for them, did marketing for them, all those types of things. And then we built big scalable websites that were directory based, where you could go and leave a review of a doctor, or where you could see the percentage of kids in your school that were on free lunch versus paid for lunch if you were looking to buy a house somewhere. And then about 8 years ago, we started into ApplicantPro, or iApplicants, and it's been about an 8-year process. For the first 5, I was in my basement, or even I had a full-time job while I was running it. About 3 years ago, I kind of decided, I should build this company bigger. It's not going to get any bigger unless I really focus and try to build a real business. Because not saying everybody here who works out of their home doesn't run a real business, but from the tech world, real businesses don't work out of your home. From the tech world, real businesses, and some of these things are valid and some aren't, but real businesses get venture funding. Real businesses scale really fast. Real businesses have buildings with big giant signs on them and blue chickens on the roofs and funny billboards, and that's what real tech companies do. And so about 3 years ago, we've been beat down by some of our competitors saying, I think those guys are just some guy in his garage. And so I said, that's generally how I usually get motivated to do things. Somebody upsets me, and offends me by saying something, oh, I can build a company that's real, I can go get an office, I can scale this up and make it something real. And so that's really been for the past 3 or 4 years. We have, I think we're at about 45 employees right now, probably about 10 contractors spread between here, St. George, Jacksonville, Alabama. I have a spin-off company that's in Monterrey, Mexico that has 5 Mexican employees down in Mexico right now. Generally focused around web-based software, generally focused around hiring. Not because I'm an HR person, not because I have any experience in it whatsoever, right? That's not usually how I pick businesses. That's probably a little backwards of what the normal process is, right? The normal process is find something that you love, find something that you're really engaged in, and it will never work a day in your life, blah, 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 right? I generally don't do those kind of things because to me, the internet is the internet. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if I'm marketing, books, or if I'm marketing four-wheeler parts, or if I'm marketing hiring software. The internet works very similarly. It's a step-by-step process, and if you play with the equations there, it works the same way. I could build tracking software to track people who are getting hired, or troubled teens going to troubled teen homes. It's basically the same thing. And so, to me, I'm a math guy, and that's just an equation, and I work my equation. So I tend not to be the normal, pick something I love. Ooh, I just love hiring. I just love selling to HR people all day long, right? I tend to be the opposite. I look for an opportunity, and then I try to work that opportunity. So that's kind of my background, right? Love business. I love small business. I love scaling businesses. It's a kick to me. I actually don't like, we're getting kind of out of my comfort zone right now. I don't like big businesses. Not because I don't like them. I'm maybe not stable enough in my attention span for a big business, right? When you have a little team of 5 people, you can pretty much do anything you want. Everybody's on board. When you have 50 employees, you can't just jerk the steering wheel really hard and go, hey, I think there's something shiny over here. Let's go this way. And so it takes a little more stability. And I thrive in more chaotic situations. I like I was in Mexico last week. We were trying to validate our idea and pitching to businesses and figuring out, is there a market for us here and can we market it? And very chaotic, very out of your comfort zone. That's kind of where I thrive. The standard, we do it every day long. That's why I'm not an accountant anymore. I don't thrive in those situations. So we're going to talk, I think, a little bit about my story and kind of how I've grown my company. And I think we'll touch on some things like capital, some things like online marketing. Because normally if you start up a business, the general concept, take the banking thing that was just brought up. If you can find me a bank that will give me a loan right now, nobody will give me a loan. And I've got a pretty good track record. 5 years, 50% year-over-year growth. Profitability, I'm not going anywhere, and I struggle getting a bank loan. Unless I put up my house, or I take a personal loan, which those really aren't business loans. So the idea that banks, big or small, are there to fund businesses, I think depends on the type of business, and certainly not for my types of business, right? Because my type of business is very different than a restaurant, or even a gun shop, or those kind of things. I have no assets. I don't have a building, I don't have ovens, I don't have equipment, I have computers. I guess I could get a loan on $30,000 worth of MacBook Airs, right? That's really not going to be enough money to help me with anything. But I generally don't have, I have a business worth quite a bit of money that has very few assets. Banks aren't going to loan on building software. They're not going to loan on money to go on pay-per-click ads. They're not going to loan on money to go do a trade show. And so loans are very difficult, and capital is a very difficult thing. And normally when a normal business starts up, everybody in here started a business, what's the first thing that you did when you started that business or think you should have done? What did you do? Let's see, raise a hand. So you think back when you launched your business. What was that first thing? How many in here it was a business plan? Right? Somebody says it was a business plan. Who in here has written a business plan?
Business school.
I don't have a business plan. I never wrote a business plan. I struggle in fact, that's probably what keeps me from raising money is they want me to write out this kind of stuff. I'm not sure that that's the right way to go. I'm not sure right now, even though we are growing, we've got a lot of success. I still am questioning my business plan. I'm still not sure exactly what we're trying to be. Every day I'm kind of evolving this concept, right? So a business plan, who in here says first thing we did was build a website? I mean, that's a viable thing to do, especially the web guys back in the back, right? We build a website. We're not a business without a website. That's a good place to start. It could be we get business cards, we get print, right? So that's pretty standard for the I'm going to go raise money. If you go to business school, we got to write business plans. Why do we write business plans? Because we want to raise money. I didn't raise money with ApplicantPro. My Mexican company right now, we did raise venture funding with. There's pros and cons for both. Right? There are huge pros and cons for both of those things. There's not a lot of money to be raised on ideas though. There used to be, but there's not. You can't really raise money because you got a cool idea. To me, ideas are a very small chunk of the pie. Like most entrepreneurs believe their ideas are golden, right? We need to protect it. I don't want to tell people about it. Somebody might steal it from me. I would say there are very few unique ideas out there in the world. There aren't. There are a lot of iterations of old ideas. We took an old idea, we turned it on its head, this is my new idea, right? But there's not a lot of really unique, I dreamed up this idea that nobody's ever thought of, or anything even similar. And the world is full of businesses worth lots of money who have really crappy ideas. And the world is full of a junkyard of businesses with really cool ideas that are worthless, that haven't gone anywhere, right? So to me, that tells me the idea isn't that important. Execution is important. Scaling is important. Those are the things that are more important to me than an idea, because ApplicantPro, which is an applicant tracking system, isn't a new idea. When I started it, there was tons of competitors in the space. There was tons of big competitors in the space. ADP is a competitor. Taleo, who just got by Oracle, they're a competitor. Connexa, who just got bought by IBM. Those are all people with way more money than I'll ever hope to even have, right? So it wasn't a new idea. It wasn't that I was doing anything specifically different. It wasn't an open market strategy that nobody ever thought of. But yet we've been really successful with it. So it's not the idea, to me, it's the execution of it. So there's not a lot of money to be raised, in my opinion, on ideas. Unless, so if you see people raising money who haven't started businesses, they're usually raising it based on their own credibility, right? Their personal credibility. We raised money for our Mexican company based on the venture company's belief that the team could execute something. They don't even care what we execute, right? We had an idea, we had a concept, but if we turned and ended up executing something totally different, they'd be just as happy with that. So if you're getting initial kind of angel funding, it would be based on you personally, your ability to execute something. There's not a lot of money like that out there. There isn't. It's usually coming from friends and family, and an angel investor who's your mentor, your old, your old scout leader, your old somebody you know who's rich, right? Who trusts you or believes in you or wants to help you out. Most money that's out there, and banks are very similar, but definitely with venture funding, is based on helping you scale an idea that you've proven you can execute. It makes it a little harder, right? Because for most entrepreneurs, we're stuck in this, well, if I had money, I could build a business. If I can't build a business, I can't get money because they want me to have a business. And so I'm left in this conundrum of, the bank wants revenue, but I can't get revenue because I need money to get it. And my guess is most entrepreneurs would say that. That is our circle belief. I believe that's what we teach in business school, is you need to come up with a business plan, you come up with an idea, you go and raise funds, and then you build a company. But in our current situation, I don't know that that's viable. I don't think it works. Number one, because how many people know somebody in here raise money and fail? Who thinks that companies who are funded are less likely to fail? You do. I personally don't. I don't believe the data will show that. I think there's a lot of companies who are funded that do phenomenal things and do really great. There's a lot of companies, well, as a venture fund, they believe 1 in 10 are gonna hit a home run. They're betting on half the companies will lose all their money. And that's heavy funded companies, right? So from what I've seen, sometimes I definitely think in certain industries, funding has to be there to grow. But on general, on average, I don't know that funded companies are any more likely to succeed than unfunded. I don't think that that's true. And so the question then becomes, how do you build a company without funding? So ApplicantPro was funded out of my pocket. I had a programmer who'd been working for me full time on some other things. I said, here's an idea, let's go build it. So luckily I had access to a programmer. I could have paired up with a programmer and used sweat equity to do that. I think we took a loan once for about 50,000 bucks. It was after we'd scaled, it was after we had money, and we paid it back. I don't know whether it was worth it or not, but it was what it was. But other than that, we haven't taken anything. So the key though here is if you want to build a company without funding, then you have to build it differently. So the way you build a company without funding is that we don't do things the same way as everybody else. So for instance, we don't build a business plan, or we don't write one. Because I would say when you start a company, you don't really know what your business plan is anyway. There's very few people who could wake up and say, I've got an idea for a business and have enough experience and what I would call domain knowledge, knowledge inside that area, to actually write a full business plan that would be accurate 5 years later, or even 3 years later, right? In fact, you see a lot of failure in that. I used to be in corporate accounting for a golf course, and I decided there was a better way to do this. So I went out, I built some software that would have made my life easier there. Lo and behold, come to find out, that golf course was unique in the way it did things, and nobody else did it that way. But I spent 50 grand building software to find out that that was bad, right? I spent 20 grand setting up a company here in a certain area in Eagle Mountain just to find out that there weren't enough customers who wanted that, right? I took personal risk or risk with somebody else's money before I validated that the idea was good. So from a standpoint of how we start or how I focus on businesses, the number one, probably the hardest hurdle is focus. And that's probably the biggest hurdle to get over when you're a startup, either out of your basement or it's a part-time job. That's how I started when I started ApplicantPro. I was working full-time. And those first 4 years, we struggled with growth because it wasn't the only thing I was doing. It wasn't my primary focus. I was always balancing, do I come home from work and work on my company, or do I spend time with my family? Very difficult to balance, work-life balance when you're doing that. Very difficult to, I don't know, it's almost like the company's a living thing that knows that it's not getting attention, and so it struggles to grow without that attention, right? You're not giving it the water and sunlight it needs. So focus is number one. I don't think that means you have to quit your job and start cold turkey. Most people aren't in that situation. Here in Utah County is a good example. You've got startup incubators like Boom Startup and some of those, which are great, but only if you're ready to quit your job and just work on it full time. That's a huge commitment. It's great if you're a college kid. Very difficult if you're married and have a family and you're the sole breadwinner. So that focus one is the hard piece, but the pieces that we go through, and I've done my gun here, I think we've got a whiteboard here. The first piece then, we'll kind of go through each of these pieces, is what's called validate. And it's a process that we go, validate, right? This isn't a one-time process with a business. This is a process we go through every day. We've been around for 8 years. We'll probably do $4 or $5 million in revenue this year. I still do this all the time. I do this with my employees. I do it every time they come up with an idea, right? We validate. Meaning, if I came up tomorrow and decided, I think I'd like to open up a pizza store here in Eagle Mountain. My options, normal idea would be, go find some space, find out how much it costs, see if you can get a loan, open up the pizza store. But there's probably some cheaper, more innovative ways I could go about figuring out if it's a good idea. If there was demand, if people really wanted it, right? There's a whole bunch of different ideas I could come up with. I could go take a job at the local pizza store. I could offer to do some marketing as a contractor for them. I could see if there's ways to figure out the demand without actually engaging the full business, right? So I tend to validate. This is much easier for me as a web guy. The internet's much easier to validate ideas on because I don't have to get a building and equipment and those kind of things. I can pop a little simple website up right now by the time we're done talking here, right? Real simple little blog, talks about my business idea. I could go and pitch to customers even before I built software, right? I could take and sketch out my idea. I could go and meet with 5 or 6 customers, say, you know, I believe that you guys need some new software that's going to make your sales process much easier to manage. So tell me about your sales process. What does it look like? Where are the pain points? Where are areas that you struggle? Now, imagine if you had some software that did X, Y, and Z. Would that be beneficial to you? Yes or no, right? I'm validating this idea. Now, general consensus thinking would be, I'm allowing somebody to copy my idea. I'm letting the cat out of the bag before it's actually built. That's probably the hardest thing for business owners or entrepreneurs specifically to let go of. It's not really my idea anyway. I probably copied it from somebody else anyhow, right? Because to me, there are no truly unique ideas out there. There aren't very many of them. And so I have to let this go because this thing, letting that idea out there, most people, again, if you believe that ideas are hyper valuable, then certainly that's scary. If you believe execution is hyper valuable, the average person is too lazy to execute, right? The average person doesn't execute that idea. If you go and pitch sales software to some company, could they copy it? Yes. Will they copy it? Most likely not. Most likely, they'll never execute it. And so the person who's going to win is the one who executes. If they out-execute you, you probably deserve it. And not telling them that idea on day 1 isn't going to stop them from copying you on day 30 or 50. So I go out and pitch my idea before I build anything. And what I'm looking for is, at first, validation of the idea. It's a good idea. People think it's cool. There's real pain. And I'm going to go talk to 5 or 10 people about that. I could talk to them online, I could talk to them through LinkedIn, I could do it via email. Best case scenario, I want to get face-to-face with a prospective customer and find out, is the pain real? Right? So that's the first thing I want to validate, right? Is there really a pain or a need for it? Right? If I'm a printer, I could have started without buying a printer. Right? I could have started by using somebody else's printer. I could have validated that there was really a need for it before I invested money. Right? So that's the pain part, right? The next part is I want to validate if they will like my solution. Right? So I pitch my idea. It doesn't have to be fancy, right? It's much cheaper to pay for a graphic artist to build 3 little screenshots than it is to pay for a programmer to build a full system, right? That seems weird. It's awkward. I can tell you it's super uncomfortable for the average person to show somebody some pictures of a website they're going to build or some pictures of software they're going to build and try to sell based on that. But it lets me validate that they'll like my solution before I spend money building it. And that's what I want to get. Do I like it? Do they like it? Or what the best case scenario or worst case scenario is they say, we don't like it, but we would like it if it did this. We would like it. No, you're wrong in how you're approaching this. It should work a little differently, right? And so the goal of each of these is not to say, oh, they hate my idea, right? It's to iterate my idea. It's to evolve it, right? Because what I started with as my idea may not be my idea when I get done. And I don't care. Because again, I don't believe in the inherent value of the idea. I believe in the inherent value of my ability to execute a business. And so that's probably the hardest part, this one right here, for a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Is they love their idea. Their idea is their baby, right? I mean, you gave birth to this thing. You gave birth to a printing company. It's hard to go, that's a bad idea. I'm going somewhere else, right? I mean, there's some personal ego that goes with that. There's some family ego that goes with it. Everybody you know knows you as the person who started this business. So it's very difficult to go, yeah, bad idea. That wasn't the one we should have done. We should do something else. So the key that I find is the earlier we can find that out, the less bought in we are, right? The earlier we can evolve this idea, the easier it is on us personally to to evolve off of it. And so this is the goal, is to go from idea on the top to validated business down on the bottom. Because that's what people really want to fund, is a validated business. And unfortunately or fortunately, what you might find is if you get to the validated business, you may not need the funding. Okay? The farther you get down on this, the less likely you are to want that money anyway. Because money comes with a lot of strings attached to it. And so you may not want those strings. So if I validate that they like my solution, this next one is, will they use it? Right? So I'm not going to sell my software. I'm going to build a very, very lightweight version of it, and I'm going to let them use it for free. Maybe just for a few days, maybe just for a month, maybe just for a short period of time, maybe for a weekend, whatever it is. But I want to validate that if they use it, they like it. What does that require? It requires what we call in software is an MVP, minimally viable product, right? It's the smallest, simplest product, but still viable for somebody to use. So if I wanted to start an ice cream shop, a minimally viable product would be an ice cream cart. Actually, it might just be some ice cream I made at home that I gave to some neighbors, and I said, will they use it? Will they like it, right? That's a minimally viable ice cream shop. If I want to start a pizza place, and I thought, I've got the best recipe for pizza, I can make this minimally viable product, I'm going to bake it in my house, I'm going to sell it to my neighbor, right? I can validate, will people like it? Do they like my solution? Will they use it? Way before I go and actually set up a pizza shop, right? Because this gives me validation, it gives me credibility, it gives me my own personal kind of, I feel like this is worth, because if it's not bank money, it's my money. If it's not my money, it's at least my time, right? It's my, what's limited for me as an entrepreneur is time, right? I have to invest time and energy, and so I want to make sure that I believe this is going to work. So once I get past use, then I'm going to actually get to buy, right? Will they actually purchase? Most businesses probably start with buy, right? Came up with this idea for a business, I built it all up, and I went out to try and sell it to people, and lo and behold, they didn't like my flavors of ice cream. They didn't like my pizza crust. They didn't like my software. They didn't like, it didn't work for them. But by now, I'm so invested in this that I'm in trouble. What funding, and the reason why I'm a little anti-funding is a good example, is because funding allows an entrepreneur to skip this with somebody else's money. And you generally only get one chance to do that. And if it works, man, you're just awesome. But if it doesn't work, you're going to have a hard time going back to the pump again and getting more cash, because you blew somebody else's cash. And that community of venture funding, it's a pretty tight-knit community. They know each other, they know the deals. And so, very difficult to be dedicated enough when you have $100,000 or $1 million in the bank to still run this process over and over. Even for me, I have a bigger company, I have money in the bank right now. Even difficult for me to force my employees back into this process of, oh, you got an idea, you want us to sell background checks? Well, do our clients have pain? You gotta start with that. Let's go talk to clients. Do they really want background checks from us? Do we have a solution that we could mock up and let them see if they like it? I don't want to become a background check company unless I know enough of my clients have the pain, like my solution, would use a minimal version of it. I'll give you a good example with background check. We just became a background checking company, right? But we'd actually sold, I don't know, $300,000 worth of background checks before we became a background check company. We started by referring business to somebody. Say, okay, we're going to go out. We talked to somebody. We found a partner. They said, yeah, we'll take the business. You send us leads. Love the business, right? So we started pitching their business to them. We found out our clients liked it. So then we said, well, they like it, but they really want it to be from us. What if we resold your stuff? What if we were the sales rep, but you guys provided the actual stuff? We did that for a while. We got them to use and pay us money. And then we said, okay, let's go ahead and let's do it ourselves, right? Same process. I could have easily started my own background check company right away. But for me, in order for me to take the personal risk, I want to learn all these mistakes before I go and make that kind of commitment. And so even in a bigger business, I still run this stuff. If I worked in corporate America, I would still do the same thing, right? I would still validate my ideas on small scales. I would still test for pain. I would still make sure that before I engage and pitch my boss on some big giant initiative, that I validated all these same pieces, right? And so for me, this is how I do everything all day long. Validation and iteration, right? Validate an idea, we make changes, we revalidate the idea, we make changes. It's never ends, right? Constantly doing this, iterate and validate, iterate and validate. Because it lessens risk, it lessens our need for capital, right? It allows us to scale once we've proven something works. So if you think of any business process you've got, you could easily take and use the same process. Right here you said, I've got some ebooks or those type of things I'd like to try selling, right? Now her options are, she could build a web page, and she could spend $20,000 on pay-per-click through Google and send a whole bunch of people there. What she might find out is that nobody bought and the $20,000 is gone. That would be bad, right? But we could start with a small process and test and validate that same exact idea. We could take the ebook, we could offer it through a limited group of people and see how many people who landed there bought. We could maybe give it away for free to a handful of people. Look, I'd like to give this away for free to 30 people. The next 30 people who email me, I'll give it to you. But in exchange, I want you to tell me what you thought about it. Would you have paid for it? How much would you have paid for it? What would you have looked for? What kind of keyword would you have typed in if you were looking for this, right? I can validate on a very small chunk and make sure it actually works. And then I can scale to get it bigger, right? So for us, this is, and for me specifically, this is like my bread and butter process. When I don't do this, I fail miserably. I buy 50 vending machines and they don't work out. I could have bought one. I could have put it in one location. I could have tested it for a few months and made sure it worked, but I didn't. I could have, let's see, I bought my own weld shop, decided that I'd build fabricated four-wheeler skid plates on the bottom of ATVs. I could have found a partner who already had the weld shop and used him for a while and proved that it would work, but I didn't. And almost every time I fail, it's because I don't follow this process, right? I jump to build the whole thing and do it all because I believe it's going to work, and I fail almost every time I do that, because that's where the 90% of businesses who fail, that's why they're failing, right? They didn't properly validate that there was real pain, there was real demand, they could really build the demand, and that they could get people to purchase. And so then they fail. It's not because the idea was inherently bad, per se. It's because they didn't validate that their offering was correct before they blew all their money, before they ran out of money, right? I bought a 3D printer before I decided to figure out, did people even want to buy 3D printed stuff from me, kind of thing. Does anybody have any questions about this or comments?
Yeah, what'd you make on your 3D printer?
I haven't gotten into that one yet. They look cool though, right?
Let's talk after the meeting.
Yeah, they look really cool though. But, yeah, so I mean, this is, I think it seems really simple, right? From a common sense standpoint, you'd be surprised how many people don't do this. People with lots of money who don't do it. People who built their businesses and scale them based on this and then walk away from it later. Because once you have money, it seems like you know what you're doing. And so at that point, you're like, well, we don't need to validate this. I mean, come on, look at my track record. You can just jump right to build. Just jump right in, build this product, and let's start selling it. Oh, not enough people like it. Whoops, right? So there's some arrogance that comes into this. It's kind of, you know, basketball players get arrogant and don't follow through the same process, don't practice as much, right? Practice leads to success, but if they break that chain, it goes away after a while. They stop developing their talent. Entrepreneurs are no different. There's a process that says we can validate whether somebody, and especially for me, because I tend to sell products into markets where I have no background, right? So it's even more important when I'm doing that, but I would stipulate that even if you have domain knowledge, even if you are an accountant and you want to sell accounting software, not all accountants do the same thing, right? And so to validate that there's really demand for it, to validate that your idea is really accurate, is still vital. So when it comes to the internet, so we've scaled most of our company based specifically from me, right? We kind of went about it the backwards way. Most companies that get funded try to go out and sell to really big, high-profile companies. It's not what we do. We sell to a lot of little companies, and we try to sell to a whole bunch of them. Venture funding companies don't like that concept. They like, go sell to Google and Sony, and I want to sell to Thanksgiving Point and Meters, right? Different concept. It's not as sexy. It's not as cool to close the meter sale as it is close the Sony sale, but it's easy. It's easier for me to get face-to-face and validate ideas. There's no way I'm going to validate an idea with Best Buy. No way I get to the right person. Pretty sure I could validate an idea with direct call, right? You probably walk into direct call, get some time with the right person, pitch my idea to them. They're going to be less, I'm not going to blow that one big sale that would have made us. I'm blowing a little tiny sale, right? If I totally screw up the whole pitch, the world didn't end, right? I just ended just this one, most likely. I mean, he's a local guy, I'm a local guy, he's probably going to forgive me, right? He's going to get over it when I blow my pitch to him. But so that, to me, this validation is what fixes, for instance, a funding problem. So for us, we started with no funding, and we started on the web. Part of that was, actually we started before we got to the web, we started with resellers. And that was the first 4 years of our business. I built some software. I found a reseller channel. I found some people who already had customers where they sold something similar to them, and I plugged my solution into them, right? I think that's an awesome short-term strategy. I think it's a little suspect as a long-term strategy. But I like that strategy for startups, right? Because the most expensive thing for a company, once you've got an idea, is to acquire those first clients. Very expensive to acquire those first people. Reseller strategy says I can find somebody, I can find an accountant who already sells accounting services to somebody, and I can get him to sell my XYZ services to his people, right? The reason why that's so beneficial, number one, he already has companies. They trust him. They don't ask how many people use, be the best one, right? They don't say, well, how many people use this software? Only 2? Because they trust this guy who's offering it. And so it doesn't require Salesforce, it doesn't require any marketing money, it requires that first contact with a reseller. And I only have to support him or her, and he does the rest. So that's how we scaled our business for the first 3 years, purely through resellers. If I'm offering a book on the internet, a reseller might be a blog. Not my blog, somebody else's blog, right? Somebody who already has traffic that I could tap into. It could be, I could go out as business to business, I could go out and use LinkedIn and try to build up my network, or I could plug into a LinkedIn group. It's not technically a reseller, but it's the same theory, right? There's an existing group of people in this group on LinkedIn that if I plug into and throw my stuff onto it, there's already traffic there, right? And so anywhere where a reseller could be somebody that already has access to the people that I want, right? Somebody already has either a relationship with them, a readership with them, traffic from them. So if I'm selling something online like a book, it would be blogs or websites or anybody who already markets to my target market, right? Again, the reason why it's not a good long-term strategy, I don't believe, is because you don't own the client. They own it.